that secret you keep, the one even you don't understand. This volume holds its true name. Welcome to LibCurio, Library of Curiosity. Shush, please keep silent. And now the next chapter begins.
You blink, and the world fractures like glass. The street outside is the same as yesterday, but the shadows don't match their owners. A clock on the wall ticks, but the hands refuse to move. Your eyes swear they're telling the truth. But somewhere in the soft static between blinks, you know they're lying. You trust the mirror. You trust the sunlight spilling across your desk. You trust the familiar face that stares back at you when you lean too close to the glass. But what if the mirror is only repeating a story you've been taught to believe? What if the sunlight bends truth as easily as it bends through water? Every glance you take feels like proof. The world is here, solid, grounded, undeniable. But beneath that thin film of certainty, another possibility waits. That your vision is not a window, but a mask. A carefully painted theater scrim stretched over something else, something you were never meant to see. Think of it, the colors you call real are frequencies your mind translates. The depth you rely on is stitched together by algorithms older than memory. You believe you're seeing the world, but you're only seeing a version your brain edits, crops, filters, and hands to you like a counterfeit. And yet you never question it. You walk through streets as though they were not projections. You fall in love with faces as though they were not collages. You build your entire sense of self on images that may already be corrupted. So the question presses closer, colder, more intimate than you expected. Are your eyes revealing reality, or are they hiding it from you? You find yourself walking through a city that feels both familiar and wrong. The streets stretch in straight lines, but every corner curves back to where you began. Billboards flicker with faces you almost recognize, friends, strangers, yourself, but their eyes are too bright. Their smiles too wide. You pause before a glass window. Inside, a family eats dinner. They laugh, raise their glasses, spill wine across the tablecloth. But when you blink, their movements desynchronize. A hand lifts after the glass has already touched lips. A mouth laughs a second too late. The scene is stitched together like bad dubbing in a foreign film. You press your palm against the glass. The family freezes. One by one, their faces turn toward you. Not in curiosity, not in anger, but as though they were waiting. And then you notice, they all have your eyes. You stumble backward into the street. The neon signs above flicker, and the letters rearrange themselves. They no longer spell words, only instructions. Don't look too close. Forget what you saw, keep walking. You obey, you always obey. But tonight, something splinters. The air hums with static, as though reality itself is buffering. The streetlights smear into halos, bending and warping until the whole avenue looks like a reflection trembling on the surface of water. And then you remember a memory so faint it feels stolen. You as a child staring at the ceiling in the dark, realizing that the shadows crawling across the walls weren't the same as the shapes that cast them. You blinked and blinked, but the shadows kept moving on their own. Untethered from the lamp, the chair, the bedpost, you whispered to yourself, the world doesn't match. And then, just as quickly, you forgot. You wander deeper into the city, where the glass towers bend at impossible angles. Reflections spill out of their surfaces, not mirroring the street, but showing scenes that don't exist. A burning forest, a woman whispering in an empty cathedral, a child painting the sky with hands dipped in black ink. The reflections ripple like warnings from another world, one that bleeds through the cracks in yours. You reach a fountain in the city center. The water looks calm, silver, endless. You lean over and see your own face. At least you think it's yours. The lips move, but you haven't spoken. The eyes blink, but you haven't closed them. Your reflection smiles with a patience that chills you. Then it whispers in a voice you know, but don't recognize. You've never seen me. You've only seen the lie I wear. You reel back, but the fountain is gone. You're standing in a white room with no doors, no windows, only mirrors. Floor to ceiling, wall to wall, an infinite repetition of your face. But each reflection moves differently, one looking left, one smiling faintly, one frozen in horror. Some are cracked, fragmented, dissolving into static. You lift your hand. 1,000 versions of you lift theirs, but in the farthest corner, one does not move. It only stares unblinking. You realize it's the only reflection that might be real. Your chest tightens. The silence grows unbearable. And then, like glass under pressure, the room shatters. You wake or think you wake back in your own bedroom. The morning light slips through the blinds. The walls are steady. The world looks normal again. You laugh at yourself. A dream, nothing more. But then you notice the clock. Its hands are frozen at the same time you saw in the city. And in the mirror across the room, your reflection does not laugh with you. Your eyes are not cameras. They don't capture truth. They stitch. They guess. They lie with elegance. Every second, light strikes your retinas like chaotic static. Your brain doesn't receive a picture, it receives fragments, sparks, broken signals. And in the silence of that chaos, your mind invents. It fills in the blind spot at the center of each eye. It smooths over the jagged edges. It colors in the world like a child with trembling crayons. What you call vision is less like seeing and more like dreaming while awake. Think of an optical illusion. 2 lines, one longer, one shorter until you measure them and realize they are the same. You feel betrayed, but this betrayal is not an exception.
It is the rule.
Every wall you touch, every horizon you walk toward, every face you swear you recognize, is filtered through a machinery that cares less about truth than survival. Plato once described prisoners chained in a cave, watching shadows on the wall. They mistake those flickering shapes for reality. But what if you are not the prisoner? What if you are the wall itself, the surface where shadows dance, never touching what casts them, and Buddhism whispers of the veil of illusion. The world is not what it seems. You are not what you seem. Your identity, your memories, your very sense of self are stitched together by the same tricks your eyes play on the horizon. The self you trust is a hallucination told so convincingly you mistake it for solid ground. Consider memory. You believe it to be a recording, a preserved reel of your life. But every time you recall an event, you do not replay it, you rewrite it. You edit the colors, rearrange the voices, change the ending without realizing. You remember remembering, not the moment itself. Your past is a palimpsest, an overwritten manuscript where no original survives. What does this mean for you? It means that your eyes, your memories, your identity itself, all of them are curated fictions. A survival theater. A trick your nervous system performs so you can keep walking without collapsing into madness. And yet, in rare moments, when you notice the glitch in the mirror, when the shadow doesn't match its shape, when you sense the delay in another's laughter, you glimpse the machinery. You see the mask shift. You feel for a second the unbearable weight of knowing. Your reality is not built on certainty, but on illusion maintained by habit. The question isn't whether your eyes are lying. The question is, can you live knowing they always are? You close your eyes. The world disappears, yet you still see it. The afterimage burns, floating on the inside of your eyelids like a ghost that refuses to leave. Maybe this is all you've ever known. Not truth, but the memory of truth. a delayed echo of light that tells you what is already gone. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing its obituary. Think of the fountain. Think of the reflection that moved on its own. What if that wasn't a dream? What if the moments you've dismissed, the doubled shadow, the misplaced memory, the crack in the mirror were not mistakes, but revelations? Small ruptures in the theater screen you mistake for sky. The thought is terrifying and yet strangely comforting. Because if your eyes are lying, then you are not trapped by what they show you. You are free to imagine something else, to see beyond the curtain, to recognize yourself not in the reflection that smiles on command, but in the one that stares back, silent, waiting, endlessly real. Maybe the lie was never in what you saw. Maybe the lie was in believing that vision was the only way to know. If your eyes are lying, then whose story have you been living? If the mirror is not your reflection but your jailer, then who is watching from the other side? If your memories are stitched and rewritten, then which version of you is real, the one who lived the moment, or the one who keeps rewriting it? And if reality itself is a theater with light as the puppeteer and perception as the script, do you dare step off this stage knowing the audience is only you? So tell me, when you blink tonight, when the static flickers between images, when the shadow shifts out of sync with its shape, will you believe your eyes? Or will you believe the silence that lingers after them?
Until next time, stay curious, stay unsettled. Remember that freedom isn't a distant place you reach or a chain you break, but the quiet witness within the shadows you once called walls. In the stillness, the true self begins to breathe. LibCurio never closes, and the next chapter awaits, patiently waiting to unfold in the silence.